Hello, hello. It's Vlada here from ClassTech, and I'm super excited to be talking today about 7 proven principles of parent involvement, and we'll start with some music. I know it's Thursday, so things get busy, and you guys can get a little bit tired, in particular with all the testing and other big priorities happening. So I am looking forward to chatting with you and really sharing super duper best practices that are being implemented by real schools and driving real impact. And I'm sure you will learn a ton of very useful information today. And as an added bonus, we're gonna talk. You're gonna get a checklist of things that you can look at and evaluate your own things. All right, enough music. All right, awesome. All right, excellent. All right. So on to 7 principles and where they come from. Essentially, there's, as many of you know, there have been decades of research around parent involvement, and not only proving how important it is and how certain types of parent involvement are directly linked to success academically and socially, emotionally for the students, but also what are the principles? What are some of the programs and best practices? And really what we've done is we went through a lot of research to bring the best of that back to you, as well as share some real examples from schools that have successfully acted on these principles and have implemented them. So without further ado, we're going to talk about really the principles that are based on dual capacity building framework and for family school partnerships. If you guys are not familiar with it, it's a very extensive work by Karen Mapp and other scholars, and it's absolutely amazing. So the first principle is called link to learning, and I'm going to share with you this checklist that I'm going to link it up inside the chat here, and you'll be able to go through and see how different areas stack up. So first we're going to talk about link to learning, and I know that Facebook flips it, so hopefully you can read backwards. Really, do you families have the knowledge to support their children? And I think a lot of times we mistakenly take lack of action from parents as lack of interest. But what we keep hearing from parents is that 99% of families have vested interest and have best intention to be there, but they have no idea how to support their children academically. And so that's where really the principle number 1 is linked to learning. Enable parents, enable families, extended families to with the tools to support their learners. And here there are 2 sort of components to it. Component number 1, of course, is that families need to know what their children are learning. So this can be as simple as including sort of a new topic that you are discussing in the classroom, or have something more systematic coming out of school, where whenever there is a new unit, sharing a brief overview of what that unit is about, linking to any resources that are critical for parents. And then step number 2, of course, is helping parents figure out how they can best support learning at home. And generally speaking, the best approach here is something very simple and something very quick that parents can do on the go, starting from what questions they need to ask, why, how questions, and really get as much detail as possible from their children, to perhaps playing some games at home and giving some recommendations. So every time you share information about what children are learning in the class, or sharing a few pictures of something new that's been happening. Just giving 1 or 2 tips for parents in terms of what would some of the simple activities be is generally a great idea. I can guarantee you that if it's very quick and very simple and actionable for parents, they will definitely pick it up and do it on the go. The big trend here in terms of linked to learning, this a more systematic approach, has been this academic parent-teacher teams. And I don't know if you guys have heard about it. It's really trending, I think from the latest data I've seen, it's about 500 schools in 22 states have been piloting or sort of testing this approach. And what's really neat about it is that it's not replacing parent-teacher conference, it's done in addition to. And generally, these are 3 75-minute sessions that are spaced out across the year. But the focus there is really on collective learning and building community and interaction between parents. So imagine, some of these workshops, just to give you some examples, are poetry workshop. And this was a recent example shared from one of the New York schools. And what parents are asked to do is to analyze poem the same way that students are analyzing it. So teachers, instead of teaching students, now have a class with the parents going through that. And actually, I was lucky enough to be part of that similar workshop, and I can tell you that I learned a ton and really had a lot of fun, feeling that new information, new approaches, and it was very interesting to do that collaboratively with other parents, that start conversation that couldn't have otherwise happened. Another important element of this academic parent-teacher teams is really sharing results that students are having with all of them collectively. So the way it's done is in the beginning of the meeting, generally the results are shared for the whole class and posted on the screen, and parents are given IDs for their students, so other parents cannot know which student is performing or how other students are performing, but they can see their student and can see relatively to the class how they're doing. And really the goal here is to push parents to think about how we can collectively help our classroom improve, rather than only focusing on the individual child, but also thinking about how we can learn from each other and start talking about strengths and weaknesses and exchanging some ideas. So these workshops generally are not necessarily super serious sit down where the teacher has to teach all the time. These are very interactive sessions that can really, where you can have quite a bit of time spent between parents exchanging their ideas, their experiences, what worked for them, helping their children succeed. So that's number one. We spend a ton of time on linked to learning, and if you're just joining, this was our first principle, but it's really a big one. So we're gonna go through 6 more, and I think the last one is absolutely critical and often overlooked. So I hope you stay till the end. So the second one is relational. And so the key here is, of course, any communication can go right or wrong depending on the relationship that you have with that person, with that parent. And so this is where really having that foundation of positive interactions and positive relationships over time is critical to ensure that anything that's being communicated, maybe about some areas of opportunity or even misbehavior or whatnot during the year or consequently after, is well received. And so there are schools that have implemented parent-teacher home visit projects among other innovative things, and really the results were stunning. I was just reading in the report here of the dual capacity framework. It's absolutely amazing the results that they got, and really families appreciate teachers really caring and asking them about their children and what matters to them, what aspirations they have for them. And it's so refreshing because a lot of families, at the end of the day, something we can't forget, have a very negative experience in the past, or we don't know what experience they had with the school system. And so really opening those doors and asking them about what do they do with in their downtime, how they interact with the kids, asking about their goals and aspirations is really critical to really lay the foundation for that. The third element, or the third principle that's really key, so we talked about linked to learning and relational. So the third one is collaborative. And really what collaborative means is really the idea that you have to bring the community together, increase those opportunities for staff, teachers, administrators, PTA, whatnot, interact with the parents, and parents themselves interacting, and that generally can be done through the same workshops or academic parent-teacher teams we talked about, but also through other social experiences as well. Number 4 is interactive. So unfortunately, something that's happening in a lot of schools, and you guys, as you're joining, let me know sort of what your experience is that information or communication with parents is essentially one-sided. So parents are receiving emails or receiving some blasts or robocalls or whatnot, telling them some important information from school. But unfortunately, what's happening is that doesn't really lay a foundation for relationship, nor this is what we as parents expect in the 21st century, when we really want to have much more meaningful engagement. And that's where creating an opportunity for two-way communication is really, really critical. It doesn't mean that everything has to be turned into a two-way communication, but setting expectations with parents about when and how this two-way communication can occur, and frankly, given the tools and opportunities that are accessible for parents to have those opportunities is really important. Just talking about two-way communication, also the great way to start it is not only about kind of those general type information, but also something that really makes all parents happy, as snapping a quick picture of their child learning or having fun in the classroom and just sending it to that parent, or even recording a short video. It really will make a huge difference, and not only affect sort of this interactive component, but definitely will go a long way in terms of relationship building. Cool. All right, so we are on to number 5. And if you're just joining, please comment below where you're joining from, and I would love to hear from you about your parent involvement and how it's working in your school. Cool. All right, so number 5 is systemic. So what systemic means is that it has to become, parent involvement has to become an integral component of various aspects, whether it's a school turnaround plan, school improvement plan. It has to be consistently done across the whole school. If you have just one teacher really driving parent involvement, but really have no one else being active, that's very hard to sustain and feel it's systematic, and feel for a parent to feel connected to a school rather than the specific classroom. So the idea of being systemic is really critical here. Number 6, we have 2 more. So let me just recap. So we talked about linked to learning, relational, collaborative, interactive, and systemic. So we have 2 more. Integrated is really an interesting one, and really the idea is that you can't think of parent involvement as just a separate activity. It has to be part of any ongoing process that's happening, and it can start as early as recruitment, when you're thinking about what are the criteria, what are the types of people and educators and office staff you want to have in the school, and how you're thinking about the recruitment process if you're in that position, to professional development and ensuring that teachers always have the right knowledge and the right resources, frankly, and time to do any of the parent involvement activities, and the list can go on and on. Frankly, integrated also, in my mind, means having clear objectives. I think you can hardly argue that a program can be successful if you don't know what success is or how you measure success. And so not to overkill it with metrics, but really having some North Star or some understanding of what that painted picture of the future looks like, where we are moving, what are some indicators that we're going to use to figure out whether we are on the right track, is really, really important. The last but not least is sustained. So teachers, educators, as you well know, we all start new school year with amazing intention, amazing energy to really make a breakthrough, and we start some start using web pages or email communication or apps or whatnot, and really figuring out how you can create a sustainable system is absolutely key. How you're going to create something that can be in place and you have adequate resources and time to go on with it for the whole year. And I think that's something we think a lot about at ClassTag, because really what happens with a lot of systems is that they're very time consuming, and it's really unrealistic to expect that you can maintain such momentum in adding more things to your to-do list throughout the year. So one thing we really focus on in ClassTag, and that's something we work a lot with the teachers, is identifying those opportunities for time saving, be it automated reminders to parents, be it automated newsletter, all of these things that really take the busy work out and allow you to focus on those things that really matter, building relationship, looking at who's not engaged, and taking some tailored and targeted efforts towards that. So would love to hear from you what parent engagement looks like in your school, and have you used some of these principles? Have you do you practice these things? And if you have any specific examples from this checklist, I'll post it below in the comments, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.